What was Brooklyn King Radio? It was pirate radio frequency 1002.96. It was raw. It was crazy. It wasn't hood. It was neighborhood. See, if it was going down in New York City or any of the 5 boroughs, we were on it. Before there were podcasts, there was Shoutcast Radio. Before there was iTunes, there was Winamp and LimeWire. And before there was anything called the Breakfast Club, there was already a show in New York with 2 crazy guys and 1 woman keeping it all together. These are the archives of Brooklyn King Radio, the wildest show that you never heard of.
I sat back, I cut one of my mother's stocking caps off and shit, and that was it. I wore that shit at night, and that was it, all right? I never, ever owned a fucking do-rag. You motherfuckers have found some way to make that a fucking ensemble and shit. You motherfuckers wear do-rags with your caps and shit like that. I'm like, boy, your heads must really be stinking, boy. I'll tell you, because that's a lot of fucking sweat and shit, man. And if you're worried about waves, tell you don't need a do-rag for waves. If you get you some of that thick ass fucking what's that shit? That pomade?
New Nile?
New Nile or whatever. It's 5% petroleum jelly and fucking 95% wax. That's all that shit is. You rub that shit in your head and you brush it.
Yeah, the ones I saw who had the fly waves, they were always brushing their hair.
Always because you had to train your hair. Because, I mean, listen, black people hair, listen, if it ain't nappy, then it's naturally curly. But still in the same, you got to train it. You got to brush them motherfuckers. It's almost like your hair is a bunch of slaves and you putting that brush on like, God, nigga, God, like that. You know, you pushing them motherfuckers to do what the fuck you want them to do and shit. You see what I'm saying? That's what it does. And that fucking pomade and shit, that shit is just, you rub that shit over your fucking head and that shit just make them all line up. Notice not once did I say do-rag because you don't need it. With that fucking, what is that, New Nile or whatever, that shit will have your hair so curly and so hard. You could ride a motorcycle and shit, get into an accident and your head will be intact. Even they'll be like, holy shit. Every bone in his body's broke except his skull. Got to be New Nile. And that's what them doctors will say. That's the way New Nile is. You don't need no fucking do-rag and shit, people.